Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of StarSound Speaks. This is your host, Irlianna Samsara of StarSound Astrology, episode 189. Okay, so I've been wanting to talk about Jupiter retrograde since it went retrograde. And it's been retrograde for a few weeks. And unfortunately, just with everything going on with my kitties, it was just making time for these other ideas that I want to pursue. It wasn't always possible, but now it is. And I feel like with Thursday's trine, Jupiter and Venus making a trine, it's a really sweet, pleasant boost for this, from, like I was saying in the previous podcast, from all the energies of the last 2 weeks. It's just been so intense. And so Jupiter and Leo trining Venus, Venus and Leo trining Jupiter and Aries, the two benefics, right? I mentioned that, but I just want to give another shout out to it because it's a bountiful blessing, and it can bless and uplift us in whatever area of the chart that these two planets are moving through for you. So quickly, Venus is in the sign of Leo, is all about love in a big way, right? Love with your heart on your sleeve, loving exuberantly, courageously, connecting and socializing and relating with others. And our relationships take on this really, it can be a playful, creative, ebullient tone, in the sign of Leo. Very joyful, and the big kid, right? The big kid high on the horse. And Jupiter retrograde is in the sign of Aries. It's a really cool visit. It's about coming home. What I'm hearing to say is, coming home to ourselves. Jupiter represents this incredible, the bountiful, the God conscious aspect of ourselves, our highest self, how we grow and move and expand in the world, right? And our relationship to that, and higher wisdom. The term, the planet is in Vedic astrology is called Guru. Jupiter is called Guru, the same spelling, right? For obvious reasons. So it is that. And with Jupiter in the sign of Aries, in retrograde, it's like, well, who's a guru? Well, we all know that ultimately the guru is ourselves. There are teachers in the external that reflect back to us, and hold the space for us to realize this, that the best gurus, of course. Ooh, it's a guru. No. Do I have to get this call? Yes, hold on. Yeah, okay, sorry. That was just Mick Jagger wishing me a happy birthday, so I'm glad it didn't go to voicemail. No. Anyway, no, sorry. All right. Anyway, so like I was saying, back to Jupiter. Jupiter and the Jupiter in the sign of Aries, it's like, okay, we're checking our truth. And the fact that with Jupiter being in the sign in Mars's temple, right, in Aries, it's definitely about what we were saying earlier about, we are ultimately our own gurus, right? And we have these outrageous saints and sages, and if we're lucky, we get incarnated beings that we get to connect with, and work with, and who work with us on holding that space for transformation. And so I just wanted to point that out, that it's really a rich time. Anytime a planet goes retrograde, it's always moving in direction with the sun, so it has a more divine aspect. So when Jupiter takes that journey, that's a really divine aspect. And when it's taken the journey in the sign of Aries, which is our ego and our will and our willpower and our goals. And so it's like saying, okay, well, let's check our ego at the door. Let's, this is a time where have we overstepped ourselves in terms of our, maybe pushing our truth too hard outside of us, right? The external, and that we are our own authority, and each individual is. And so honoring that and supporting that and being confident and jovial and enthusiastic for each of us discovering our truth on our own, and having that be, our authentic connection with our true self. would all be ideas coming up, you know, during Jupiter retrograde. Let me give you the dates once again. Hold on, let me grab these dates. Okay, Jupiter went retrograde on Thursday, July 28th, and it at exactly at 8 degrees 43 minutes of Aries, and it is going to it'll go direct at 28 Pisces, so it'll dip its toe back into Pisces. 28 Pisces on November 23rd, so that's Wednesday. What's that? The day before Thanksgiving, right? It'll go direct, and then it will it'll go into 0 degrees of Aries. That will be on December 20th. But in over the dates we want to just to give us the little technicality stuff here, okay? When Thursday, we're feeling it today, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday into Thursday, the trine perfects early Thursday morning Eastern time, Venus trining Jupiter. So this is a really, I'm just reiterating the fact that, you know, make the most of this beautiful trine with the two benefics trining each other. You know, it doesn't happen that often. So let's jump on that. So that is happening now. And also to make a note that on October 28th, that is when Jupiter is at 20, it's going to cross over from Aries back into Pisces, which is its domicile. So that'll be really a powerful time. And so all those ideas and things that came up, well, let me just say, so that's October 28th. You want to look at that date, and then November 23rd, when it stations direct, starts to move forward again. So all of these reflections and insights that we're going to get around ourselves we can now bring out and embody and bring out into the world once it goes direct. But in the retrograde, it's that deep cosmic experience, you know, where we're discovering things more on the inner planes. Anyway, October 28th and then November 23rd, stationing direct. And then December 20th is when it finally leaves Pisces and it goes back into 0 Aries, and it'll stay in Aries for the next, you know, several months into 2023. So, you know, who might feel this the most of the Jupiter retrograde? Well, certainly if you are a Sag, you know, Jupiter's the sun, it's the ruler of your sun. So naturally, that's going to be a really big deal. But who would feel it most, I would say, would be people within 5 to 8 degrees of cardinal signs, like because Aries, you know, let me put it this way. Cancer, yeah. Can I talk today? No, I'm going too fast. Trying to do so many things. I'm sorry. Let me repeat this. Who would feel this the most? Well, it's in the cardinal sign of in the sign of 8 degrees of went retrograde at 8 degrees of sorry. I gotta slow down, right? That's what Jupiter retrograde. This is live coverage, folks. Slow down, right? Jupiter's always wanting to jump ahead. So it's like, okay, slow your head down. All right, I take the hint. I'm just here to showcase that. That's all. Everything else, nothing else matters. It's been a rough month, as you already know. We won't go into that again. Yay. All right, let me go back. All right, so yes, the sun. If you have the sun, if you're a Sag, you know, obviously you're going to feel this when your sun, the ruler of your sun, goes retrograde. Oh, it's Mick again. I'll tell you. Okay, so it's crazy. All right, I'm turning this off. All right, I'm going to try this one more time. So when we feel the most, you know, who's going to feel this? Yes, Sagittarius for sure. And if you have planets around 5 to 8 degrees of Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, Aries, because when it began, that would really engage you, you know, more, you know, it's tied to those exact degrees. But anyway, all right, enough about that. Now let's just jump back into the philosophy of this. So because Jupiter rules philosophy, higher wisdom, spirituality, esoteric wisdom, religion, it rules foreigners, foreign cultures, travel, long distance travel. All of these things are Jupiterian, you know, ideals and archetypes, right? Zeus, right? Zeus, Jupiter was Zeus, right? And he was the king of Olympus, right? So it's like, my word is law in the universe. So that's why does Jupiter rule the law and justice? Well, that's why, because Zeus said so. So you have a problem with that, you take it up with Zeus. But Jupiter retrograde in Aries is like, guess who's really Zeus, right? It's us. But and it's a great time to say, are we being bossy and dominant and pushy and pushing our truth on people or on ourselves? Are we being inauthentic with our ideas, our personalities? Are that part of us that can be very brash and combative? Or are we using that Mars energy, because it's in Mars's temple, it's thinking things over in the framework of Mars, in the framework of, am I overstepping myself? How about the positive attributes of Mars? Because nobody basically thinks of Mars as positive attributes. I know, and he was a rude man. He never had any friends. It was like horrible. But we want to have friends, don't we? Yes, Venus is in Leo. This is where we want to have friends. So, but seriously, all kidding aside, the point of it being, that the meditation and the journey that we take over these next few months, it doesn't go direct until like Thanksgiving. So we've got August, the rest of August, September, and really all of October. So we still got like about 10 weeks with this. Good reflections. Anyway, so my feeling is, with this is a good time when we can check in on our dreams too. Jupiter represents optimism and confidence and enthusiasm. And, yes, the shadow can be where we're too enthusiastic and we try to force our, my will is law in the universe and my law is the law and my way, the highway. That's the dark side of it. But the positive side would, and the more evolved side would be to embrace ourselves and our truth and to walk in it and know it rather than believe. Like, I believe in something. It's knowing instead of believing. Knowing the truth of who we are, and let that be. Like, we don't have to preach or over somebody or ideas. And so this time period is really a good place to see where we might have overstepped our bounds with our will and our goals and our drive to make something happen. And we get to look and revisit those things. Certainly a great dream check-in, with our hopes and dreams and wishes. I would say too, it's a great time to focus and reflect on the big picture, and that maybe our idea about the divine is not what we think it is. Our idea around, the old, God is this man with a white hair and beard on a cloud, that's just a very obviously very simplistic view of things. And where are we deifying things that are outside ourselves? Where are we not in our power? Think about Mars, right? One's own willpower and drive. Well, where have we given that away to some dogma or religion or spiritual thing that has us be outside ourselves, that does not connect us authentically to our own true spirit self? That might be one, inquiry. We're challenged by the truth of who we are. We get to revisit these things, and ask, what is our truth? Mars is the physical body. So the truth of our bodies, the truth of our embodiment on Earth. Maybe there's a more, a different way to allow ourselves to experience truth, or a higher, more divine way of Mars energy. What I was saying earlier, Mars is could be courage. Very much about courage and standing up for self and also for others, like shining a light instead of like burning them with a blowtorch, burning others with a Mars club, right? It's like use that energy use our drive and our passion to be courageous and to take actions that are courageous and passionate. And so that's a real Mars conversation, right? So maybe we're also this Jupiter retrograde is it's, I think too with Jupiter, sometimes with Sag, we go in 100 different directions, right? I like this, you got 50 runways, but that's too much, right? So we're kind of pulling back to go, okay, what would be, let's pull the reins back a little bit here. And we can't launch on 10 runways. We really got to do, let's just not get too scattered, right? We can be abundantly confident, but we also want to focus, right? Like focus is my friend. So we're learning to control that, and like the part of ourselves that might be rude or brash or destructive energies, ways of being in the world, how we go after something. Are we conquering something versus cooperating? I would say too, with Jupiter, with higher knowledge and wisdom, in the retrograde, it gives us an opportunity to give up everything that we know ourselves to be around who we are, our Mars, right, our in Aries, our identity, giving up that of, oh yeah, I know. It's like when I lived in New York, you could never tell a New Yorker anything, right? We know everything. It's like bad Jupiter. I know. I know everything. I can't be contributed to. It's fairly tough. If you've ever been in New York and lived in New York, or known a New Yorker, you know that you got to deal with, I know. So maybe this is a great time, perhaps, you think, to give up that, we don't know. Our plans and our goals, like maybe we don't, maybe there is a higher truth to what's out there, and we won't see it unless we go into that retrograde motion. We've also got Mercury retrograde coming up in a couple of weeks. But basically, sticking to the Jupiter theme here, your plans, your goals, the truth about them, what is just, what would be just for ourselves, just for others. Wherever Sag and Pisces, Jupiter's also rules Sagittarius, and it also rules Pisces. So use Pisces too. You're on the hook, right? This is a powerful time for Sag and Pisces, the ruler of their, the ruling planet. Or if you, wherever you have Sag and Pisces in your chart, that is where these areas are going to, you'll really feel this, of wherever place Jupiter is natally, you want to look at that. And you also want to look at, of course, what house that Jupiter in Aries is, and as it dips back into Pisces, those areas are definitely going to be affected. Right and wrong is questioned, right? Judgment, is there judgment versus no judgment? So these are some of the things: revisiting goals and learning, studies. Since Jupiter represents higher wisdom and knowledge, we might be revisiting some attitudes we have around education or learning or being taught, right? Being the guru, or having an outside guru assist us to come home to ourselves. So there's all of those things: revisiting goals, learning, studies, returning to them, maybe reconnecting with some teachings that, we might be revisiting and seeing in a new light. I would say too, revisiting like how much we want to preach, or, don't, especially when not asked. That's always such a, wow, that's a tough one, right? The Jupiterian archetype. You ought to do whatever, the finger pointing, that Jupiter thing, the thing. I knew somebody that was, they'd often make a point, and they were Sag, and they would do this, and they would point to talk, and it's like, okay, could you please just talk to me, but you can put your hand in your pocket, thanks, I get it, but it's okay, it's just interesting because you can see these archetypes. But yes, preaching when not asked, you ought to do blah, blah, fill in the blank, or you better do blah, 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 that there you go, right? You can hear those words. Yeah, let me see what else I wanted to talk about. Yeah, like, do you think you know yourself, or how well do you know yourself? These are questions to ask during this time. Jupiter's also about intuition, the intuitive, prophetic, even prophecy, so this is a reconnecting with our intuitive prophetic selves. So I would think too, because it, Jupiter rules Neptune and Pisces, that definitely would create a place where we might have a rich dream state. We might have a lot of dreams come to us, or have our dreams revisit, everything that we dream about and want as ideals, where we can reflect upon that, contemplating the limitless self, contemplating the big picture. How are we are in these limited bodies, but we are unlimited beings. And so engaging with all of those ideas, is certainly a rich time for that. There's no, when you think about it, like no one's really in charge. It's like we're in a big field of everything is moment to moment, constantly changing. So like as Osho, the great Saint Osho, great mystic and saint, holy man from India, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, the Osho channel, by the way, if you've never been there, fantastic. A whole new generation has discovered his teachings. Wonderful, very much, definitely not exactly not a fan of religion or dogma, right? The core of his teachings, people would ask him, and he said, it's very simple. No dogma, no religion, no rules. And that can be very confronting to ourselves, right? Even as liberated as we might want to believe ourselves to be, no rules. Whoa, well, if there are no rules, what's there? What's there when we take away all this conditioned thinking and conditions of society? What's available to us? Well, we get to find out, right? No, in Jupiter retrograde is a great time for finding that out. So nobody really is in charge, as much as we may want to give our power away to another person or institution. So yeah, but the Venus trine Jupiter again will be a really sweet, these sweet few days for maybe connecting in a more jolly, a lighthearted way. So it's not this serious kind of ponderous, we don't want that ponderous Jupiter, heavy duty Vatican type of heavy stuff, right? We're supposed to be right. Our ideal selves are, and Jupiter, Venus and Leo reminding us our true selves we are these divine light beings. And so we can use this jolly transit of Venus through Leo to expand and our connection with ourselves and our divine light, and to revel and enjoy each other's company as such. And bringing Jupiter in there with that trine, I think that we could get some pretty cool results. We could get some really amazing insights and wonderful connections and unions with people. I would say the only other thing, there is one other transit. It's not till November 16th. There's Mercury is going to be in a trine with Jupiter. And that's when Jupiter will have dipped back into the water sign of Pisces. And so that is, let's see, right before it stations direct. And Mercury will trine Jupiter at 28 Scorpio, 28 Pisces. And so that at that time, Mercury will be under the beams of the sun. It'll be combust. So that could be some interesting, that's certainly not as the jolly transit that I'm talking about. It's a trine. We could get some really deep insights around our spirituality and our connections, maybe examining and not examining our fears and fears of survival, and speaking up, and maybe a fear of being heard. That might be a rich time to find out some truths in that way, in that nature. But anyway, just to connect with you, I feel so much better knowing that I'm in this conversation with you, because it's something that's been on my plate for weeks, to sit here, and since the 28th of July. So yeah, it just feels good. Thank you for listening, because I really had to get this off my chest. Maybe it was just for me, and I appreciate you holding that. But yeah, restoring faith in oneself. There's a restoration of faith in our abilities to get things done. This period could, and not just the entire the entire Jupiter retrograde, but certainly these next few days, that optimism and faith and getting things done, and making, I would say too, making some great art with Venus and Leo. It's a juicy time for self-expression and discovering things around ourselves and our truth around ourselves in the process. So yeah, that's all I have for you. Realization, yeah. Learning to have faith in ourselves. That might be another piece of this and facet. So anyway, that's all I have. And I appreciate you all listening. And I hope that you have enjoyed this and gotten some value out of it, despite all those Jupiterian interruptions. There were many. All right. So big love to all of you. And I hope you all have a great, great week and enjoy and keep journeying with our Jupiter in retrograde. And we have more great, great guests coming. And I'm so excited to be having these conversations with you guys. Okay. Much love to you all. Take care. This is Irlianna Samsara, StarSound Speaks, StarSoundastrology.com. Thank you all for listening. Bye.